fight with somebody, maybe choosing certain things like food or alcohol to bring us down, right? We do these things. The other thing that is really interesting that I watch all the time is, and in my own self, is the internal conflict, the internal dialogue of the beating the crap out of ourselves. That's also a familiar thing. And so that's also a patterning that might come up to bring us back down. The thing is that we can choose vehicles that are positive, that actually lift us, or we choose vehicles unconsciously often that actually just pull us right back down to a catabolic state, not necessarily to get our feet back on the earth. Makes sense?
Sounds like we feel like we're getting our feet back on the earth in a way. It's like a way to...
Yeah. So like, let's think about it. If there was, if food were, let's use food, because I feel like almost everybody can kind of, especially, this time of year, we're going inward, we're wearing sweaters, we can maybe have them, and then there's holiday parties, and we're, And so if life is spinning, and it's really, really chaotic, for whatever reason, or there's a lot of catabolic energy that you're experiencing, and in that moment, that chocolate cake is so darn good, and it really feels good in that moment. It feels like I feel satiated, and I feel met, and I feel like that from the chocolate. But then an hour or the next day, it's wake up with that, why did I do that? I can't believe I did it, and I feel like shit. Or we're drinking, I'm hungover, or even like picking a fight. Sorry, so we're back down. So it may have been a reprieve for a moment, but in the end, when it's not a healthy vehicle for us, and discovering a healthy vehicle for your own self is a very personal practice, but it can, that can just bring us right back down to where we were before, or close to it. Yeah? So, what I personally noticed, because I never think, don't believe in coincidences, I believe that everything happens purposefully, and that's a belief, that's a choice I made, right? So, is that, for many different reasons, like I said, this end of the year has been extremely challenging. Things that I've never experienced in my life. I also just entered a new decade, and I don't take that lightly. I entered 40, and I think that there's things that have kind of started to shift away in order for me to step into this new decade. So when we start to let go of certain ways of being, there's almost like a grieving and a death that's occurring in life. And so that might bring up things that don't feel so good. And so, like I said, I'm not turning to these old ways of being, of just, quick fix, Band-Aid, if you would, taking the purple pill. What I've chosen to do is to sit in it, really be in it. And it's wild. And it's funny because in that process, people have been like, you'll get through, it'll be great, there's the lights at the end of the tunnel. And before, I'm an opportunist. That's what I see. I'm like, it's gonna be great. And what I realize is that that's what I've done my whole life, that I've skipped these steps of forgiveness and compassion, and I would just jump to where's the next opportunity now? I get it, I'm going through this for some reason, right? And so what I've allowed myself to do is just be in it. And so I've discovered ways of basically grounding myself, in myself. Grounding myself, which I call into spirit. And right now, what would you guys say are some that you can do to bring you back down to ground? That if you think about electricity that needs to be grounded, what do you do that bring you back down, whether that it's in the holiday time or chaos of life or feeling things like that that feel like they're healthy vehicles for you? Does anybody want to throw anything out?
Yoga.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Meditation. And any kind of nature contact.
Awesome.
And on the flip side, I'm noticing TV is the way that I do the other. I'm just noticing the difference between the two.
I think for me it's making the choice to eat something really healthy when I don't want to. I want salad.
Yeah.
But then I make it, and then it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I feel better because I made that choice for myself. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and so those are all great. And so what I always recommend is having 5 tools in your back pocket that that ground you in a healthy healthy vehicle. And because the reason why 5 is because, you know, it's allowing ourselves to be fluid. It's allowing ourselves to, you know, like having a salad might not work today, but maybe dancing around my living room will. You know, so those kind of things that really bring us in, and so there's a few different things around that. Is one is really being aware of how you want to feel, not to dismiss what you're feeling in the moment, because it's being with that and allowing yourselves to be that in any way. So for me, a tool I use is journaling, and I love to journal. I've journaled since I was a little girl, and it's a way, it's cathartic. It's a way to express what I'm feeling in that moment, and to be with whatever I'm feeling, and whatever's come up over that day. Then it's also putting out daily, well, how do I really want to feel today? Because ultimately, if I want to feel peace, joy, love, acceptance, support, but then I'm going to go through the day beating the crap out of myself, chances of feeling those things are pretty much slim to none. Right? So I get really clear on, before I start my day, as I'm journaling, is how do I really want to feel today? So that way I get to set an intention, right, which we hear a lot about, especially in yoga, set an intention. Basically, what energy do you want to put behind what you're doing? So I love what you guys said, and I love what you brought up, because I think food's a really interesting one too. So if we, you know, it's the whole idea of, am I choosing to have this salad because I should? That's catabolic energy. Or because, you know what, I really want to take care of myself and nurture myself right now, and it's really going to come from that place, like it's out of self-love. I should go out on a walk right now and exercise and move my body, because in the back of your head is because I'm a fat piece of shit, right? Or something like that, seriously. Or is it because, you know what, I want to go outside right now and move my body because I know that it's going to really fuel me, and even though right now I really feel like crap, or I feel like it's the last thing I do because I have a to-do list that's forever long, I'm just going to give myself 20 minutes. And we make a commitment, an honor code with ourselves when we do that. It's really becoming aware of what's the energy behind whatever it is you're going to choose to do, even sitting and watching TV. You know, it's like, can I sit and watch TV and totally be like, I am good. Like, I'm really good with allowing myself to be still right now, to soften, and to just like turn my brain off, you know? So it's those kind of things. So it's like, instead of just going to automatic pilot, which a lot of us do, especially if we're in patterns or habits, even with our partners or things like that, it's that, can we even just take a moment, and what I call hit the pause button. So hitting the pause button really allows us that sacred time to drop in and check in to see, well, where am I now? What is going to serve me the most in this moment? And is that going to basically potentially cultivate the feelings I really want to feel? And so when the other day I noticed I was going to get my hair cut, and she was late, and I had a lot of anxiety because of what's going on in my life, and I started to notice it coming up. And it comes in waves, right? It comes in waves, just like everything. So I was noticing this grief come up, and this kind of gripping, which is, it's patterned from me, from my childhood, right? I would watch my mom do it. That's all I've known. And in that moment, I would do anything to get the hell out of there. And so what I did is, since she was running late, she had time. I had time. I sat. I closed my eyes, and even though it was like, you know, music pumping and whatever, and loud lights at this hair salon, which I think is just so funny, you know. But I just sat, closed my eyes. I took some breaths, and I allowed myself to be with myself. I allowed myself to let that feeling move in me and be with me. And what happened is that within 5-10-ish minutes, it dissipated. Because what it needed to do is it needed to move. But what most of us are conditioned to do is we stuff it down, we stuff it down, we stuff it down, and like I said, it manifests either by us doing something that's not healthy, or it manifests physically in our bodies. Okay? Some of us, it's our bellies. Some of us, it's our lungs and our chest or our shoulders. Okay? And so when we start to become aware of those kind of things, then we start to become aware of the wisdom of the body. What am I getting right now? What am I not allowing through right now? What can I do to be with me right now? And so I just want to just say this now, because I think this is an important piece, you know, for so long, these kind of ways of being, of really looking after self and taking care of self, is considered selfish. And again, whatever meaning you give anything is what it becomes. And so to me, I don't think selfish is a bad thing. I think it's self-compassion, self-care, self-love. Also, it depends on the energy behind it, right? You can be selfish, and of course it can be a catabolic expression. There can also be selfish or self-care or self-compassion. And this is how I feel, that it's the whole idea of, you know, when you're on a plane and you put your children's mask on first before you put yours on. You know, here we are in the world trying to do more and give more and be more and be more and be more for everybody else, and we're coming from such a depleted place eventually that we're on the floor like, I can't give anymore, you know? And then we're doing everything, dipping into our reserves to try to show up for the world. And that's when we start doing most likely the things that are negative vehicles or unhealthy vehicles. Can you guys relate to that?
Yeah, you know, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I think of, you know, taking care of myself is how I am able to give more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to nurture myself
Yeah.
and, you know, be selfish because I know that's how I fill myself up, so I can show up for other people.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And was that a thing that you had to learn for yourself?
Yeah, somewhat, but
Okay.
my mom sort of came into that as she
Right.
got older.
Awesome.
And so I saw her not do that for many, many years.
Right.
And when I was younger, I took on that same energy of not taking care of myself, overdoing.
Right.
But then as I got older, I switched into what she role modeled.
Awesome.
But, you know, it wasn't until she was in her 50s that she really started nurturing herself and taking care of herself.
Awesome. Good for your mom. Yeah, good for you too. That's great. Yeah, and that's wonderful. And so you know, in that, just, you know, this is where the self-compassion comes in, is that remembrance that, you know, whether how many years or how many lifetimes, or, you know, that we've been in a certain patterning, to go, I know that's the right thing to do. I know I should do that. You know, I should take care of myself. But if we're so patterned and conditioned, and these are such deep ways of being, it's what to know something is the first level. It's the awareness. But to actually embody something on a visceral level, that's entirely different, and that takes practice, patience, time, all of those things that it's just like oftentimes, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but like I was not giving myself any of those things before. And so now it's like I'm learning to nurture myself. I'm learning to take care of myself, and even that alone is a great tool in helping, as you're learning a new way of being, to use the word I'm learning. For example, I always put everybody else first. This time of year always gives me anxiety. This time of year, you know what I mean? It's the kind of, I call it always never box, as opposed to I'm learning to find ease in the holidays. I'm learning to flow through the changes in my life with ease, right? As opposed to putting ourselves into a box of this is how I always am. Does that make sense? So being gentle on the process of that as we learn new ways of being, as we want to show up potentially different, especially as we enter into a new year, is recognizing, just like a little kid learning something new, that's what sometimes we're doing. So if we're not used to being gentle on ourselves or slowing down on the holidays or being kind or any of those things toward ourselves, then when we start to practice it, we're going to forget, most likely. I don't want to limit you, but most likely, chances are, especially if you've had these patterns for 20, 30, 40, 50 years even. So, yeah, so just those things. And I know, are we time-wise good? Or?
Well, you guys sort of started naturally doing it with, like, kind of bringing the voices in. So maybe we could keep going with that. And I'm sitting here because I love that image of having 5 tools on hand. Because I have tools, but I've never thought about what are my 5, like especially during the holidays, what are my 5 go-to things that are like in my pocket, I think you said?
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think we're all self